Welcome to the Ramayan, Stories of Dharma and Devotion. I'm Sandeep, and in this podcast, we'll journey together through the timeless epic of Valmiki's Ramayan, filled with stories of honor, sacrifice, devotion, and righteousness. Although it's rooted in Indian culture, the Ramayan offers universal lessons that resonate globally. The epic addresses themes such as the triumph of good over evil, loyalty, the struggles of the righteous, family duties, and the power of compassion. These values transcend cultural and religious boundaries, making the Ramayan relevant to everyone globally. We continue our journey through Balakanda, the first chapter of the Ramayan, which introduces us to the early adventures of Ram and Lakshman. Today's episode tells the story of Ahalya, a woman who faced a grievous curse and found redemption through Ram. We'll explore Ahalya's tragic past, the curse that bound her, and how Ram's compassion became her salvation. After Ram had defeated the demoness Tatka, Sage Vishwamitr continued leading the two young princes, Ram and Lakshman, further into the forest. Their journey was far from over, as there were still many challenges ahead. As they walked through the forest, Vishwamitra decided to take them to a place filled with sorrow, a place that held a story of beauty, deception, and eventual redemption. Ahalya was known as the most beautiful woman in the world. She was created by Brahma himself, crafted to be the epitome of grace, elegance, and beauty. Her radiance was unmatched, and her presence brought a sense of joy and divinity wherever she went. Seeing her beauty, Brahma decided that she should be given in marriage to a worthy sage who could match her wisdom and purity. Sage Gautam, a revered rishi known for his deep spiritual knowledge and unwavering devotion, was chosen to be Ahalya's husband. Gautam was a man of great wisdom who had spent years in penance and meditation. Brahma, recognizing the sage's virtues, gave Ahalya to Gautam in marriage. They lived a peaceful life, filled with devotion and simplicity, in an ashram located deep in the forest. Their ashram was serene, surrounded by tall trees and lush greenery, with a gentle sound of flowing water adding to its tranquility. Ahalya, in her new life, devoted herself to her husband and his teachings, and Gautam, in turn, loved her dearly. They lived a life of harmony, dedicated to upholding dharma and seeking spiritual growth. However, Ahalya's beauty was known across the heavens, and it eventually caught the attention of Indra, the king of the gods. Indra, known for his many flaws despite his divine status, was mesmerized by Ahalya's radiance. He desired her and became obsessed with the idea of winning her affection. Indra, consumed by his desire, began to devise a plan to deceive Ahalya and fulfill his wish. One day, when Sage Gautam had left the ashram early in the morning to bathe in the nearby river, Indra saw his opportunity. He took on the form of Sage Gautam and approached Ahalya. Deceived by his appearance, Ahalya believed that it was her husband who had returned. Indra, disguised as Gautam, managed to deceive her and fulfill his desires. However, Sage Gautam soon returned to the ashram and immediately sensed that something was amiss. His spiritual powers allowed him to perceive the deception that had taken place. He saw Indra still in his disguise, and his heart filled with both anger and sorrow. Indra, realizing that he had been caught, immediately tried to flee, but Gautam's rage was beyond measure. He cursed Indra, condemning him to a life of shame and humiliation. According to Gautam's curse, Indra would bear 1,000 eyes across his body, a constant reminder of his deceitful act and his uncontrolled desire. But Gautam's anger did not end with Indra. He turned to Ahalya, who stood before him, trembling with fear and shame. Though Ahalya had been deceived, Gautam felt betrayed by her inability to recognize the deceit. His anger clouded his judgment, and in his fury, he cursed Ahalya to turn into stone. He declared that she would remain invisible to the world like a lifeless rock until the day she was redeemed by the touch of Ram
an incarnation of Vishnu. Ahalya, stricken by the curse, fell to her knees, her heart filled with remorse. She realized the consequences of what had happened and the pain it had brought upon her husband. As Gautam's curse took effect, Ahalya's form began to fade, and she turned into a stone, lying the ashram, unseen and untouched by the world. Gautam, overcome with grief and anger, left the ashram, unable to bear the memory of what had transpired. The forest around the ashram slowly grew dark and desolate. What was once a place of beauty, filled with the warmth of love and devotion, became cold and empty. Ahalya lay there, in her stone form, her spirit trapped, waiting for the day she would be freed from her curse. Years turned into decades, and the ashram became a place of sorrow and solitude. As Vishwamitra, Ram, and Lakshman approached the area, the sage began to narrate the tragic tale of Ahalya. He told Ram about her beauty, her marriage to Gautam, and the deceit that led to her curse. He explained how Ahalya had been condemned to remain in her stone form until Ram, with his divine grace, would come to free her. Vishwamitra's voice was filled with both sorrow and hope as he spoke of Ahalya's fate. Ram listened attentively, his heart filled with compassion for Ahalya. He could sense the pain she must have endured, trapped, alone, and forgotten. As they reached the ashram, Vishwamitra pointed to a stone lying amidst the overgrown foliage. "O Ram," he said, "there lies Ahalya, awaiting her redemption. It is your touch that will free her from this curse and restore her to her true form." Ram, with a heart full of empathy, approached the stone. He could feel the weight of the curse, the sorrow that had bound Ahalya for so long. He stepped forward, his feet gently touching the earth, and placed his hand on the stone. The moment Ram's hand touched the stone, a divine light enveloped the area. The forest seemed to come alive, the birds began to sing, and a gentle breeze swept through the trees, as if nature itself was rejoicing. Slowly, the stone began to transform, and Ahalya emerged from it, her form restored to its original beauty. Her eyes opened, filled with tears of both sorrow and joy. She looked at Ram, her savior, and immediately bowed before him, her hands folded in reverence. "O Ram," she said, her voice trembling, "you have freed me from my suffering. I am forever grateful for your compassion and your grace." Ram gently raised her, his eyes filled with kindness. "O Devi," he said, "your suffering has ended, and you are free. May you now live in peace and find solace in the path of righteousness." Ram's words were gentle, filled with the wisdom and compassion of the divine. At that moment, Sage Gautam appeared, having sensed the end of Ahalya's curse. His heart, which had been burdened with anger and grief for so long, was finally at peace. He looked at Ahalya, who stood before him, her eyes filled with remorse and devotion. Gautam, seeing the purity in her heart and the suffering she had endured, forgave her. He stepped forward, and Ahalya bowed before him, her heart filled with gratitude. Gautam, with a gentle smile, blessed her and said, "O Ahalya, let us leave behind the past and move forward on the path of dharma. The divine grace of Ram has brought us back together, and we must now dedicate ourselves to the pursuit of righteousness." Ahalya, with tears in her eyes, nodded, and the two were reunited, their hearts filled with the promise of a new beginning. Vishwamitra, watching this moment of redemption, felt a sense of fulfillment. He knew that Ram's journey was not just about slaying demons, but also about restoring balance, bringing light to the darkness, and spreading compassion. Ram's touch had not only freed Ahalya from her curse, but also healed the wounds of the past, allowing both Ahalya and Gautam to find peace. The forest, once cold and desolate, seemed to regain its beauty. The flowers began to bloom, the trees stood tall, and the air was filled with a sense of serenity. Ahalya, now free, stood beside Gautam, and they both looked at Ram and Lakshman with gratitude. They bowed to Vishwamitra as well, thanking him for guiding Ram to their ashram.
Ram, though a young prince, had shown the qualities of the divine: compassion, understanding, and the ability to heal. He knew that this was just one of the many challenges he would face on his journey, but it was moments like these that defined his purpose. The story of Ahalya was a reminder that even in the face of the gravest mistakes, redemption was possible through genuine remorse and divine grace. In our next episode, Ram, Lakshman, and Vishwamitra will continue their journey to the city of Mithila, where a grand event is set to take place: the Swayamvar of Sita, the princess of Mithila. This episode will mark the beginning of a beautiful chapter in Ram's life, one that is destined to change his journey forever. Join us as we explore the arrival in Mithila and the events that unfold there. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please share the podcast with friends and family so that we can spread the glorious life of Ram and how Dharma guides us at all phases of our life. While we may not know exactly what happened, this eternal story of the Ramayan serves as a guide for how we conduct ourselves in our day-to-day lives. We have tried to create a story as close as possible to the ancient texts, scriptures, and writings of Valmiki's Ramayan. Until then, may the light of Dharma guide your path.